My girlfriend dumped me after 10 years together after she saw a guy on TikTok and wanted me to be like him, but I refused. She showed me the video while we were lying in bed. It was a Thursday night, the kind where nothing was wrong and everything felt quietly routine. We'd eaten takeout on the couch, laughed at a dumb movie, folded laundry together. 10 years of shared rhythm. You learn each other's silences, how to pass the time without needing to fill it. I thought we were fine. She turned to me, phone in hand, grinning. You have to see this guy. I leaned over. It was a TikTok, some dude in a flannel shirt chopping wood in slow motion. He wasn't talking. Just smiling, a perfect smile with perfect teeth, his beard trimmed like it was managed by a studio stylist. He turned to the camera once, nodded, winked. The kind of guy who could probably sell hand soap just by existing. She laughed. Ugh, why can't you be more like this? I smiled back. A joke, I thought. The kind couples make. I mean, I don't look like that. Never have. I work in tech, not on a ranch. I have a bit of a stomach. I don't wax my eyebrows. I don't pose. I don't wink. I replied, lightly, because I'd rather keep my back intact. She didn't laugh. Instead, she sighed, almost disappointed, and rolled over. That was the moment, though I didn't know it yet. The moment she started pulling away. The next few days, I noticed little things. The phone in her hand more often. The way she looked at me, not with disgust or anger, but with detachment. Like I'd stopped meeting some invisible standard. She started tagging me in TikToks more. How cute is this couple? Look at this guy surprising his girlfriend with a trip to Bali. This man built his wife a greenhouse, a whole greenhouse, babe. I laughed at first. Then I didn't. One night I asked, am I not enough for you? She shrugged. You could try a little harder. To be someone else? To be better. The word hit harder than I expected. We'd been together since college. Met in our sophomore year, her a design major, me in computer science. Our relationship wasn't built on fireworks and chaos. It was built on patience. Late-night ramen. Long walks home after bad days. Shared playlists. Fights about IKEA furniture that ended in compromise and sore hands. She used to tell me, I love how safe I feel with you. Now she looked at me like safety was boring. One evening, I came home and she was on the balcony, scrolling through her phone, her feet tucked under her like she was protecting herself from something. I set down the groceries and asked, are we okay? She looked up slowly. I don't know. That was the first honest answer in weeks. We had dinner that night in silence. I tried to fill it with small talk, a new update at work, the funny thing my coworker said, a movie trailer she might like. But she nodded absently. Scrolled. Scrolled. Laughed once, but not at me. At her phone. Then, the next morning, it happened. I came out of the shower and found her sitting on the edge of the bed, knees pulled to her chest. She didn't look up. I think we should take a break, she said. I froze, still holding the towel to my face. A break? I asked. From what? She looked at me finally. Her eyes were dry. Steady. From us. I laughed. It wasn't mean. Just shocked. You're breaking up with me? I don't know, she said. I need something different. Because I'm not an Instagram husband? Because I don't make smoothie bowls and pose shirtless in the woods? Don't do that, she said, her voice sharp for the first time in weeks. Don't make it about that. Then what is it about? I just don't feel it anymore, she said. I don't feel like I'm growing with you. I didn't answer. I didn't know how. She stood, walked out of the room. And I sat down on the bed, damp, stunned, the towel still in my hand. An hour later, I started packing. Not because I'd made a decision. But because staying felt like bleeding out in slow motion. I packed clothes first. Then the books that were actually mine. My old headphones. The hoodie she always stole but never admitted was mine. I left the framed photos on the shelf. I didn't have it in me to take them yet. She didn't say much. Just watched from the kitchen, arms crossed, phone face down on the counter for once. Before I left, I said, "You're going to regret this." She looked down. "I might," she said. "But not today." That night, I slept on my friend Paul's couch. It smelled like beer and gym socks. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, still hearing her voice in my head. "I need something different." I mouthed the words to the dark. Different. Not better. Not safer. Not happier. Just different. Like 10 years was a playlist she got bored of. And then the question came, the one I couldn't shake. Was I boring? Or was she just addicted to the idea of someone shinier? And worse. Does it even matter anymore? The first week felt like being underwater. Not drowning, that would have been easier. Just suspended in something thick and silent. I floated through each day, bumping into memories I hadn't meant to revisit. She hadn't texted. I hadn't either. I wanted to. Every night. I'd open the chat and stare at our message thread, old photos, half-planned dinner ideas, inside jokes that now read like artifacts from a different era. But I didn't send anything. Because I didn't know what to say. Because I didn't know who she was anymore. Paul let me crash at his place without asking questions the first few days. But eventually, he broke. "You want to talk about it?" I shrugged. She saw a TikTok guy. Thought I should be more like him. I said no. She dumped me. He blinked. "Wait, what?" I gave him the full version. Less sarcastic. More raw. 10 years. A life together. Ended with a scroll and a sigh. Paul looked like he didn't know whether to laugh or feel sick. "That's insane," he said. "She lost her mind." I didn't answer. Because saying that out loud felt cheap. Like summarizing a heartbreak into a punchline. "It wasn't just him," I said finally. "It was everything. She started seeing something in me she didn't want. She's an idiot. Maybe. But she's not wrong." That surprised even me. Paul tilted his head. "How do you figure?" I thought for a second, then said, "I stopped changing." She didn't. I spent the next day walking around the city. No destination. Just motion. At a red light, I saw a couple on the opposite sidewalk. She was laughing, full-bodied and unfiltered. He kissed her forehead and held her hand like they just met. It hit me like a gut punch. Not because I missed that version of us. But because I wasn't sure it had ever really existed. She used to say I grounded her. That I was her quiet place. But maybe that's all I ever was, a place to rest. Not stay. I stayed up late that night scrolling my own feed. Not to stalk her, I couldn't bring myself to do that yet. Just to understand. What was this pull? This obsession with curated people, polished to perfection in 15-second bursts. The guy she showed me, the TikTok lumberjack, I saw him again. Sponsored now. Bigger platform. Same smile. Same wink. Thousands of comments like. He's the dream. This is what real men look like. My boyfriend could never. I wondered how many breakups he'd caused without ever knowing it. How many people like me were packing bags because someone fell for a filtered fantasy. 2 weeks after the breakup, I finally went back to our apartment. Not to talk. Just to get the rest of my things. She wasn't home. Or maybe she was and just stayed quiet. I didn't knock on the bedroom door. The place looked the same. But colder. Quieter. Like someone hit pause on a life. I packed slowly. Books, chargers, jackets. Then I found the box. Photos, cards, keepsakes. A napkin she doodled on during our first real date. Movie tickets. A dried flower from that time we hiked in the rain and she called it the most romantic day of her life. I stared at it for a long time. Then closed the lid. Didn't take it. Didn't throw it out either. Just left it. Let her decide what to do with the version of us that used to be enough. That night, Paul asked, if she calls tomorrow and says she made a mistake, what do you do? I didn't hesitate. I don't go back. He looked surprised. I was too. But it was the first time I'd said it out loud and believed it. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. What I felt was sharper than anger. I felt done. And that scared me. Because if 10 years can unravel that fast, what can't? The first time I laughed, like, really laughed, was at a gas station. It was a dumb moment. Some guy pulled up with a parrot in his car window, blaring reggae at full volume. The bird was bobbing its head like it was the DJ. And something about that image, the absurdity of it, broke through the fog. I stood there, nozzle in hand, grinning like a fool. Not because life was better now. But because it didn't feel like I was living under glass anymore. After that, things shifted. Not dramatically. But enough. I started waking up before my alarm. Ate better. Walked more. Not for some glow-up montage. Just because my body wanted to move again. I went back to my old hobby, photography. Nothing serious. Just little moments. People on sidewalks. The way sunlight hit the side of a building. That gas station parrot, actually. Funny how we always think the person we love wants us to be more. But sometimes, they liked us less the moment we began growing without them. I ran into her friend Sasha at the bookstore one afternoon. She smiled, tight-lipped. "Hey, haven't seen you around." "Yeah," I said. "Been keeping low." She nodded. Tapped the book in her hand, something self-help. "Why, she's been doing okay. Just so you know." I didn't ask, but I let her speak. "She's been talking to someone." "Of course. TikTok became Tinder, I guessed." I nodded. "That's good." Sasha tilted her head. "You okay?" "I will be," I said. "Eventually." She didn't say anything. Just gave me that pitying look people give when they think you're pretending to be strong. But I wasn't pretending. Not anymore. A few nights later, I pulled up the document I'd started a week after the breakup, titled Things I Didn't Say. It wasn't a letter to her. It wasn't angry. It was just truth. Fragments. Confessions. Things I'd buried. Like. I stopped asking for what I wanted because it was easier than hearing no. I felt like a side character in my own relationship. I used to think loving someone meant becoming the version of yourself they needed. I was wrong. I saved the file. Didn't send it. Didn't delete it either. Paul asked me to come out one night, some low-key bar where his friend was doing a DJ set. I hesitated, but went. It wasn't anything wild. Cheap beer. Mismatched tables. A crowd full of people half my age and twice as loud. But I stood there, beer in hand, watching people dance like nothing hurt. And I let myself imagine what it would feel like to be new again. Not to date. Not to forget. But to start building something that didn't orbit around someone else's expectations. I sat outside after midnight, alone, the city buzzing around me. And I realized something. I wasn't mourning her anymore. I was mourning me, the version of me that stayed too long, tried too hard, bent too far. And maybe losing that version was the best thing that could have happened. I started writing again. Not just fragments. Stories. Thoughts. Observations. About what it means to love someone who outgrows you in their head before they even say it out loud. About how heartbreak isn't loud, it's quiet. A slow muting of your own voice. And about how, somehow, you still survive it. I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of her. The one I built in my mind. The girl who used to trace circles on my wrist when we watched movies. Who once said I was the calm in her storm. That girl was gone long before I packed my bags. And now, so was I. It came on a Tuesday. No warning. No build-up. Just a message, after months of silence. "Hey. Do you ever think about us?" It was her. I stared at it for a long time. I'd imagined this message 100 different ways, in the early days. Back when I was still tracing the shape of her in my empty routines. Back when I still wanted to believe that love meant something just because it had lasted a long time. But now? Now I didn't know what I felt. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I read it again. Slowly. Noticing the wording. Us. Not you. Not me. She still saw us as a unit, even in memory. Even after walking away. But I didn't. Not anymore. Paul came over that night with burgers and a bad mood about work. I showed him the message. He raised an eyebrow. She testing the waters? Feels like it. He shook his head. She chose a stranger on a screen over a man who gave her a decade. I didn't argue. But part of me wanted to say, she chose someone different because she didn't know who I was anymore. And maybe neither did I. I typed a reply. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Not out of anger. Just because, what was the point? What did I owe her now? What would answering fix? That weekend, I took a drive. No destination. Just roads I hadn't been on in a while. I ended up in the town we once visited for a wedding. A place where we danced barefoot in someone's backyard under a string of lights and got tipsy on cheap white wine. I walked through the little main street, now mostly empty shops and shuttered cafes. Sat on the same bench we once took a photo on. I could still hear her laughter echoing in the alley between the bakery and the flower shop. But this time, it didn't hurt. It was just a memory. A framed picture in a hallway I didn't walk down anymore. I never replied to her message. 3 days later, she sent another. I thought you'd want to talk. Just to clear the air. That was the thing. The air was already clear. For the first time in years, I could see myself. Not through her lens. Not filtered through who she wished I was. Just me. Messy. Quiet. Kind. Flawed. Real. And finally, enough. That night, I stood in front of the mirror. Not to critique. Not to mourn. Just to look. I looked older than I remembered. Not in a bad way. In a true way. Like someone who'd survived something invisible. I wrote her a final message. Short. Polite. Honest. I used to think I needed closure from you. But the truth is, I've already found it. Take care of yourself. Then I blocked the number. Not out of cruelty. Out of self-respect. Because some doors don't need to stay open. A week later, I moved into a new apartment. Smaller. Quieter. But mine. I painted the walls myself. Assembled the bookshelf wrong 3 times before getting it right. Burned the first meal I cooked. Laughed. Started to feel like a person again. Not someone's project. Not someone's disappointment. Just someone. I don't hate her. I don't wish her pain. But I also don't wish I was still in her life. Because wanting to be enough for someone who's always chasing better is a losing game. And I stopped playing. The first time I felt free was in the middle of doing nothing. It was a Sunday morning. The windows were open, and sunlight spilled across the floor like warm water. I was barefoot in the kitchen, half listening to a playlist I made months ago and never updated. Coffee brewed on the counter. My phone was face down, not buzzing, not waiting for a reply. And for once, neither was I. There were no plans. No conversations I was rehearsing in my head. No half-arguments with ghosts. Just me. A quiet apartment. And the strange, subtle joy of being. I leaned against the windowsill and let the silence stretch. It didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like peace. You don't notice the weight of something until you stop carrying it. That's what they say, and they're right. For so long, I thought I was holding up a relationship. Turns out, I was dragging it. Her expectations. My silence. The constant game of adjusting, adapting, reshaping myself into someone who might be good enough, shiny enough, interesting enough to compete with whatever she saw on her feed. I used to think love meant trying harder. But now, I know better. Love isn't supposed to be a test you keep failing. It's supposed to be a place you come home to, not a performance you exhaust yourself in. I kept writing after she left. What started as a few pages of scattered thoughts became something more. A journal. Then essays. Then short stories. I poured myself into the page, not to document her absence, but to rediscover what my own voice even sounded like. She once said I was comfortable. Like it was an insult. But now, I realize comfort isn't the enemy. A good life is built on comfort. On trust. On being seen without needing to be impressive every second. I'd take comfort over chaos any day. It's strange, how easily the mind slips back into moments you thought you'd buried. There are days I remember her laugh. The curve of her handwriting. The way she used to hum when she cleaned the kitchen. But those memories don't grip me like they used to. They pass through me now. Light. Soft. Like wind through a window you no longer feel the need to close. I don't hate her. But I don't miss her either. At least not the version of her that made me feel like I was always 10 steps behind some imaginary standard. The message she sent weeks ago, I never responded. I didn't block her out of spite. I didn't slam the emotional door for drama. I just chose something else. Myself. For once, I chose me. I've made new habits. I wake up early. I read before bed. I take walks with no destination. I've reconnected with old friends, the ones I stopped calling because every conversation had to fit her schedule. I joined a local photography group. Started showing up at events without needing to ask permission or explain why. I even booked a solo trip, something she used to say was a little too much time alone. Turns out, alone isn't so scary. Not when you like the person you're alone with. One afternoon, I saw a couple taking selfies in the park. She was posing, directing him, making him redo the shot over and over until she looked perfect. He stood there, patient. Smiling. And I wondered, how many people are in relationships like that? Silent participants in someone else's image? I used to be that guy. And maybe, once, I thought that was love. Now I know better. The most important thing I learned? That being left wasn't the betrayal. It was the wake-up call. A loud, painful, necessary reminder that if someone doesn't love you as you are, they don't really love you at all. And if someone walks away because you refuse to become a projection of their fantasies, let them walk. Let them run. Because that kind of love was never going to hold you. It was going to shrink you. Today, I feel whole. Not because someone filled the space she left. But because I stopped believing I was broken. I stopped chasing the highlight reel version of my own life. Stopped measuring myself against strangers curated through filters and hashtags. I'm not a viral moment. I'm not a before and after story. I'm just here. Living. Steady. Rooted. If she ever thinks of me, I hope she remembers this. I loved her for who she was, not who I wanted her to be. And I deserved the same. So, no, this isn't the kind of story that ends with a new romance or a grand twist. This is the kind that ends quietly. With someone waking up, making coffee, standing in a sunlit kitchen, and finally realizing they made it through. And they're free. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.